Welcome back, mi gente. Happy Friday. Good morning. Did you ever work with me, Manny? Whenever I would walk in the mornings at work and I'd be like, good morning, mi gente, or good morning. I'd walk into a shift, like even if it was a closing shift, and I would walk in and I'd be like, good morning. And everybody knew that I was the one walking in because no other manager was saying that.
No, I did not.
I think that is something I miss doing because I tried doing that when I worked at Chick-fil-A and everyone was just kind of like, And at that point I was like, okay, this is just like not it. Welcome back, guys. Happy Friday. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic end of your week. We hope that today goes by fast, that your coffee is strong, and that your drinks tonight are stronger. We're going to start off this episode asking like a very controversial, and I can't even believe it's controversial. Like that tipping has become controversial. Can you believe that shit?
Yeah, that's 2025 for you.
So, tipping culture. Should you skip the tip? When is it okay for you, Manny, to skip the tip? When do you think?
For me, in my opinion, I feel like I don't need to tip someone who is just handing me my food. So it's like if if I order to go somewhere and like I just go up to like the to go person and I'm like, okay, I'm here for so and so's food, and like they hand it to me. Well, actually, I'll retract, right? So I don't think that I should tip according to how much my food was. I feel like everyone, if you're just picking up to go food, you can leave the to go person like $1, $2, $3, because like at the end of the day, they are making more per hour. At most places, you're making more per hour when you do to go rather than when you're like a server. At least I know that at the places I've worked at, like to go people do get paid more than like a server. So like I personally believe that like if you're doing a basic service, like you're just handing someone like their food like as like to go pick up like curbside stuff like that, if curbside like allows tipping, like I think like you should just give them like a generalized tip, like, oh, like here's like $2 because like I know you're working. And contrast to like when you're sitting down at a restaurant with like a server, like they're providing you like a more in-depth service, like they're taking care of your evening. Same thing with like your servers, or like to take it outside of the service industry, like people who do like your nails, like barbers, like stuff like
Okay, no.
that.
Stuff like that, what? Tip them?
Yes.
That's what I was going to ask you. So when it comes to like serving like food, you're at that point, you're not in charge of your salary. So like I go work for a company, I'm a server, I'm a bartender, I'm a to-go person. I don't like, I don't set my pay. But when I'm somebody like a freelance, like nail tech, this is what I was going to ask you. And I want to know like to our listeners what you guys think, because this is something that I've been thinking about since we were going to like do this episode. So like people that do nails, like estheticians or like nail techs, especially when you work from home and you set your prices, do you set your prices based off of, like for me, I'm a small business owner. I don't expect a tip and I'm providing a service, and sometimes it's you see me, like I'm working long hours, like I'm working throughout the day on like at the same time I'm being a mom. So my prices, I don't expect people to tip me. I'm including all of my like labor and all that stuff, like uh it's accounted for in my price. I don't expect people to tip me. Every now and then I'll get somebody to tell me that tells me keep the change, like it's fine. Like if it's like an odd number and they round it up to whatever, they'll tell me keep the change. I'm like, oh, thank you. But like for nail techs, that I think that they set their prices and sometimes they're pretty expensive. Like they like I mean, I get it. It's an art. Like I've gotten my nails done before and I always tip, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those people that doesn't tip my nail tech, but like people that do like hair or like barbers or like tattoo artists, like they're the ones that set the prices for the service that they're providing. So do you think that, I don't know, it just gets tricky. It just gets tricky. I see it more from a server's perspective where you're getting paid 213 an hour. Like, like
Well, what I'm no, I'm waiting for you to finish. But okay. Well, for people who do it like at home, like I feel like it's very different because like you said, like you're setting your own prices. I'm talking about like barber shops. They typically set their prices. There's not like the barber. It's not like one barber charges like $20, the other one charges 30. Because if that was the case, then everyone would just go with the cheaper barber. At a barber shop, everyone is it's like it's a general price. Everyone pays the same price, and then you can tip the barber on top of it. I obviously you don't relate because you don't get like a haircut like I do. Like for me, if I want my haircut done a certain way, which has happened before, I've wanted my haircut done a certain way, and the barber like either
Fucks it up.
doesn't. I mean, not fuck it up because like it's not like they fuck it up. It's like the same with women are with nails or with their hair. They want it done a particular way, and when the
Yeah.
person doesn't do it that particular way, it's like like you would like obviously that when you're like I'm not gonna like tip you as much as I would like if you have done it like the way you want, which is obviously, I mean, it's fair and unfair because I mean that's just the nature of the game. Like you're doing a service, and sometimes you do like you're not gonna please everyone at the end of the day. So like
Yeah.
it's kind of you got to take it with a grain of salt and just be like, hey, like at least they gave me something instead of nothing, which is kind of like how you got to tackle being a server. Because I know a lot of servers who are like, oh my God, I hate this job. Like I don't. I mean that was me at one point when I was working my first serving job when I moved out here to Laredo. I was like, I would work like a full on Friday, Saturday night, and I'm not even breaking 100, and I'm like, bro, this shit sucks.
Yeah.
Like it was fucking terrible, and that's why I ended up like leaving eventually. But it's like at that point, it's like tipping culture is different everywhere you go. Like in Orlando, like even when I was serving, like
That's what I
a
was gonna tell
Friday,
you.
Saturday night, like I'm
Easily.
breaking 100s. So then, and then when I move over to bartending, they don't even get me started on that. Like we'd be like livid if we didn't break 100 as a bartender on a Friday, Saturday night. Like
It'd be
it'd
shocking.
be crazy. And I mean, well, this is like a technicality. Like the only reason that would happen is like if we were somehow short, which is like I don't. I mean, I was almost never short. I will never forget. Like when right before I became a bartender, the previous bartending team I always used to be like the cocktail closer, so like I would see this happen like all the time, and it was like there was these two certain bartenders that every single night I always ask myself how does this keep happening to them? And it's like they were always short, like every single night they would be short, and I'm like,
Short on people or short on like
no,
alcohol?
short under drawer, short
Oh,
under
on their
drawer.
drawer. I was like, what are you talking about
No
short?
one counts alcohol. The fuck?
Yes, they do.
They're supposed to, but when have you counted the alcohol?
When you do inventory, you count the alcohol. But when you said short, I thought you meant like short on manpower.
When you do inventory, I've helped do inventory, and like they don't go like that. Like they're not gonna be like, why is this bottle so lower? Like
What do you mean?
they've never. If you've done that to people, you're fucking
No,
annoying.
I
Because
can.
they've never done that shit to me.
Yes, especially when I came back home and I took over the bar. Because when I moved to Florida, I was the front of house. I was a service manager, and then even though like I did schedules for all the front of house, like was still the bar manager so they took care of that. So I never touched like inventory until I moved back home. And I was like, I mean, I knew how to, but I knew how to because I would see them do it. And I've counted liquor before, like inventory, but it wasn't my area of responsibility when I moved back home. So when you said short, I was like short on manpower, short on people, like drinks.
Going back to that, like if even for inventory, like I've only seen it done, I think like twice in the 2 years. Oh, was it 2 years or a
Well,
year and a half that I was bartending? I don't remember.
it also like it's not obviously it's done on one specific shift. Like so if you're not working that shift, obviously you're not gonna see.
No, absolutely, but like the point I'm making is like if they're not come like if you did this like to your bartender, I'm sorry, you're an asshole. Like I'm saying, like they went up to you and they were like, "Why is this bottle so low when we don't use it as much?"
I would
Like,
question them, and then like sometimes there's just accidents that happen. Sometimes like a bottle breaks, so you're like, fuck, a whole new bottle, one that we don't even go through to begin with, like, or one that we do go through, like, shit, I'm down an entire bottle of Patron, and that's something that we go through, like,
bro, that was I forgot what period of time this was. We didn't have Patron for like
or pussers.
no, it wasn't puzzers. It was
Really?
because because puzzers we have backups for, but you don't have a backup for Patron.
Silver, yeah, you have Milagro. We had Milagro, or we had
We also didn't have Milagro. That's the point I'm making. Like we didn't have Milagro or Patron for like 6 months at a time.
but what about Jimador?
No, babe.
So we had no silver tequila at all in the building. Lie. They probably substituted it with someone else, with something else.
I don't know. I'm telling you.
No, I think what you're talking about was the Grande, was the top shelf.
No, we had Grandma. I'm telling you. I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, if you say so. Either way, going back to your story when you were talking about them being short, what does that have to do with tipping?
No, I was making a comment of like, because it sucks because you think that you're getting tipped well, and then like at the end, like you get to that point of the night, and you're like, yeah, you would have made it, which is the downside of being a bartender, which is like why I remember I had to stop trusting the manager on duty, who would always work on my shift, and stop trusting their count on the door, because I think one time, and I will always kick myself in the ass for this. I remember one time I think my drawer was like over like $20, like $50, and I was like, hey, the drawer is over $50. And I remember her saying these exact words like, thank you so much for turning that in. If you didn't do that, that would have been yours. And in that moment, I was like, fuck.
Well, no, you also have to remember, like, that money could have been through, like, a checkout that was done, or some, like, change given wrong, or, no, not change given, well, yeah, change given wrong, but at the end of the day, like, it would have been different, like, if it was over, then it was yours, but if it evened out at the end of the day, then...
I mean, I 100% understand that. I'm just saying, like, the point is, like, it was over, and I could have kept that extra money.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, true.
So don't always be so nice, people. Look out for yourself.
Be vigilant.
Going back to the tipping culture.
Yeah. Like, you felt the difference when you moved from Florida to Texas when it came to tippers.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed it when I moved to Florida as a manager, when my kids would tell me, or my team members would tell me, like, I made this much money, like this amount of money. And I would look at my other manager and I'd be like, dude, what the fuck are we doing as managers? Like, we could be serving and making more money. These kids are making more money than we are. Like, what the absolute fuck?
And
especially after COVID, when we had, we didn't bring back, we were trying to build back our staff to what it was pre-COVID, and business was business as usual, and people were hungry. People, like, that's the thing. You're an essential worker. Like, people are always going to be hungry. I had a paper given to us by Darden saying that we were an essential worker, so that if we were getting pulled over, we had it. Like, but no, yeah, it was wild. So when I was doing my little research, I always knew that here in Texas, you get paid $2.13 an hour. In Florida, I think it's like $4 or $3 as a server.
You and I have been arguing about this since I moved. I swear to you, I'm telling you, I swear to you, I was not we were at Darden, I'm pretty sure in Orlando, we were getting paid like $7 an hour. Almost $7 or $6 an hour. She's looking it up right now on Google, by the way.
As of September 30th, 2023, the minimum wage for tipped employees in Florida was $8.
Hold on.
Okay,
you.
well, I left in 2021. I left Florida. Back then, I think y'all were making, like $4 or $5.
Again, we'll agree to disagree. I'm telling you,
I don't
baby,
remember.
yes, I'm pretty sure I was making at least $6, close to $7.
It could be $6. I don't remember.
Server.
I had it in my notes for when I originally moved out there, like in my phone, and then I lost that shit.
But yeah, I was flabbergasted.
No, and then I didn't tell you. Well, I guess we'll talk about
I was
a little bit later.
flabbergasted when I came to Texas, and my manager said, "Yeah, your hourly is $2.13." I was like, "Bitch, what?"
I didn't know this, but apparently several others. So that's the minimum across the United States.
Let me be homeless.
So that's the minimum across the United States that you can be paid is $2.13, and several other states you are paid $2.13. And so one thing that you guys may not know, for people that don't work in the food service industry or that don't work a server or a tipped position, like a tipped wage. So the point of you being tipped so low is because the minimum, okay, so that's the thing. The minimum wage in Texas is $7.25. So you get paid $2.13 because your tips are supposed to offset, and you should be making minimum $7.25 an hour, and the $2.13 that you get paid is supposed to cover your taxes, like what you owe in taxes to the state. So that's why sometimes you break even on your checks, or every now and then you'll get paid $1 or $2 because you don't make the minimum requirement per shift. Like, so let's say I work 10 hours, right? At $2.13 an hour, and I only make $50. Don't question me. This is just an example. But let's say you make $50. So obviously that's not what you would have made if you worked the 10 hours at $7.25. So then the company is supposed to reimburse you and offset you that amount of money.
I never seen that happen.
Yes, you have. You mean to tell me that you never got paid a dollar amount in your paycheck as a server?
I'm pretty sure when I moved out here and I worked at where I worked, I'm pretty sure I saw a check one time for $0.
Well, yeah. If it's at zero, then you're
stubs.
If you're at zero, which is what the goal is, it's because you're breaking even, and that's the goal. So I guess I can explain it a little bit deep, like a little bit more in depth later, but I feel like it can get too confusing So, question. In restaurants, it's recommended, most restaurants, minimum tip at the bottom is 15. I've never seen it go below 15. Lie. I think I've maybe seen 10% when they have a suggested amount of tip at the bottom. I think some places go as low as 10, but other places go like 15, 18, and 20%. Restaurants, it's known, or it's like recommended that you tip 15 to 20%. That's the normal. So per AI on Google, obviously we know this as servers, it's recommended that you tip 15 to 20% minimum, like in restaurants, based on your ticket, based on your total. Supposedly Google recommends that if you're at a bar, you pay $1 per beer. So let's say I get 4 beers, right? I should tip minimum $4. And then it says 20% per cocktail. Or not per cocktail. Well, it says 20% for like a cocktail.
Like Google's like thinking like high-end restaurants, probably. I was going to say 20% of a cocktail is not even...
Well, let's say a cocktail is $7. What's 20% of $7?
Like probably $3 too.
It's $1.40.
Yeah, I mean, I
this.
guess.
Okay. That's what Google says. Taxis, it says 15% standard, plus or minus more with luggage. Valets, $2 to $3. Food delivery, $3 to $5 more if it's been bad weather. So like DoorDash, Uber Eats, all that stuff. I feel like I'm not going to tip just $5. I think it's, well, I mean, I guess it goes back to all they're doing is picking up the food and delivering.
I'm biased, or we're biased, because, we know the struggle of having to, like, live off tips. So I'm always inclined to tip more, at least, like, not more, like, the bare, like, percentage or, like minimum. I do agree with the whole bad weather thing. Like, if, like, it's a really bad rainstorm, like, you order out, which I typically don't do, FYI.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, if I, like, order out, like, in, like, some severe, like, weather storm or something, I'm like, damn, I'm making this person, like, risk their lives for me to be a fat ass. So it's like, then I would tip a little more, like, me personally, obviously. So, I agree with all of it except all that stuff about the bar. I feel like when it comes to restaurants, and I don't know if I'm beating you to the punch with this, but, like, this is my opinion. I feel like you should tip based on service and things the server can control. And I'm pretty sure you're probably maybe gonna get into that later on how to properly tip. So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. So yeah, food delivery. I guess. Well, yeah, they're doing a service. Is it charging? So they're doing a service, right? But obviously they didn't prepare the food for you. So
no, yeah, but that's a bigger service than just like sitting at a counter and be like, okay,
that's true.
Here's your
That's
food.
true.
Like, when you're out on the road, you're like, a bit of an exaggeration. Well, not really an exaggeration. Like, you really are risking your life, like, by being on the road, because you never know. God forbid something happens.
Yeah. Spas and salons. So like barbers and stuff like that. It says 15 to 20%. So that's my point. I feel like dressers and hairstylists that they set their prices. Like, can't they charge you more if they wanted to?
I mean, they could, and I mean, things have like inflation has made things get ridiculously more expensive. My haircuts used to cost me $15 back when I was in high school. Now I'm paying fucking anywhere from $30 to $25 for a fucking haircut, not including tip. I mean, inflation has a lot to do with like things being so expensive. Not getting into politics, but just that's just the reality of it.
I agree. And that brings me to autograt. Some restaurants, which is crazy because some Darden concepts autograt and some don't. And I think that's what it's
Oh, I have a story. I have a story about that.
Tell me.
My first job, those of you know what it was, at the bottom of the menu, it said that for parties of a certain size, like it's supposed to be autograt. And I think one time, it wasn't me, but one of whoever the server I was working with that day, she saw it. She was like, "Hey, like I saw that this is supposed to like be allowed, or like, or we can enforce this." And I'll never forget when like the manager, I think it was the owner's son, and it was like, "Nah, we don't do that." And I was like, "Bitch."
No
Then why the
way.
fuck is it on the menu if you're not gonna allow us to do that?
It should be standard. You either do it for everybody or you don't do it at all.
And I mean, again, like we never tried to enforce it. That was the first time, and like that was the one time, the one only time I ever saw that in the 5 years that like I worked there.
You saw it on the menu?
No, that I saw that, like I saw someone try to like, "Hey, can we do this?" And they were like, "No."
But was it optional on the menu? What did it say?
I don't know. I don't remember. It was 5 years ago. I know that it said that I think it was for like a certain party size, that it was like autograt like will be applied.
See, I used to get bitched at all the fucking time. Well, why doesn't so and so? Why, if so and so does it, like the other concept, if so and so does it, why the fuck can't we? Like blah blah blah. I'm gonna waste my time, and it's true. Like, unfortunately, you every now and then you're gonna get stuck with a 20 top, and you're not gonna make absolutely jack shit, and that's like the worst part. That is, and I've been there and I can say that because I've been there as a server before I was a manager. Like, it fucking sucks. It makes you literally want to fucking rage. Like, I completely understand it, and I felt bad. Especially when you've been in that position as a manager that's worked a serving position, it breaks your fucking heart.
I mean, I think that's just you because you actually care. Other managers just like deal with it.
Yeah, I guess. So one thing I also wanted to talk about. So when you're one position or some positions that people may not know are also tipped positions. Some restaurants have their hosts on tip out. So they don't make minimum wage. They'll make less and then they get tipped out by the server.
Yeah, I used to hate that shit.
So before, Cheddar's used to do that. When we first opened, I think before Darden bought us,
It's the stupidest shit ever, by the way.
we used to tip out more because we would tip out to the busser, to the bartender, and to the host. When I was at Chili's, when I first started, they had bussers, and then short after, like maybe like a month in, they got rid of bussers. So all we had was hosts and bartenders, and hosts back then made like an hourly wage. So all we tipped out to was a bartender. So we would make a lot of money because we got to keep a lot of our tip out. Like, we had to tip out less, but yeah, you also have to take that into consideration, especially because, and a lot of people don't know that you're tipping out based on your sales, not based on your tips. So if I make $1,000 in sales and I'm going to tip out 3%, which was the percentage at, our place, you're shit out of luck for $30. Like, your tip out is that much divided between the bartender and the host and the busser, if I'm doing my math correctly.
30% of 1,000?
3% of 1,000. Is that 30?
Yeah.
$30, yeah. I've done it long enough. I've been in the game.
I mean, that's just, that's like a grander thing. Like, I mean, if it was like a
Every now and then.
hundred,
Every now and then.
let's say about like $120.
No, 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 no. In sales. You're tipping out based on sales. You're not tipping out based on for your tips.
I thought it was the amount of drinks you like. At least for Cheddar, is like for the bartender, like we get tipped out on how many like drinks you sell, isn't it?
No.
That's what someone told
No,
me.
they fucking told you wrong. You tip out based on your sales. So the more you make, the more you tip out. So
Wow.
that's the name of the game. So one thing I thought was actually very interesting, babe, and you're going to kind of like want to shoot yourself in the face for this. But so Florida, I looked it up. Apparently now the minimum wage in Florida is $13. So when we left, our team members, well, this was actually a Darden thing. Back in 2021, after like a specific, or in 2020, I think, after COVID, they raised the minimum wage for our corporation to $12. No one was making less than $12, like as an hourly employee with Darden. And I thought that was actually very like amazing, because I've said it time and again, like Darden will take care of you. Like they could be fucking like difficult to deal with sometimes, and their policies may be like just unrealistic at times, but they take care of you when it comes to like pay. One thing that I did not know, that the federal minimum wage is $7.25. Federal minimum wage for tipped employees, I spoke on this earlier, is $2.13. The highest minimum wage, what do you think it is? Minimum wage. What do you think it is, and where?
Where?
Like what state?
It's probably LA.
LA's not a state, but California.
California.
And what do you think the dollar amount is?
$18.
Close. So the highest minimum wage state is actually Washington, D.C. and it's at $17.50. So there are some people that can get away with this, like some states, Georgia, for example, corporations that don't fall under the FLSA, which the Fair Labor Standards Act. So there are some states that don't like observe this, and their minimum wage is a little under, which is at $5.15, I believe. So for example, and it's kind of tricky because, for example, Georgia, their minimum wage federal is $7.25, but some corporations that don't fall under the federal or the Fair Labor Standards Act pay less, which is at $5.15, which is fucking insane. Yeah, I did not know that. But what is the minimum amount that you would ever tip? Like you won't go under that for food, because sometimes you're going to tip for like.
In what setting?
Like if we go out to eat at a restaurant, what's the minimum you're tipping for bad service? For bad service, obviously for great service, you're going to tip normal. But for bad, absolutely garbage service, what's the minimum you're tipping?
I mean, that depends on like how much the bill was. Like I feel like if I'm not going by if let's say just the two of us got to eat, let's include Eddie, right? So that's gonna be roughly, if we go to like a casual restaurant, it's probably gonna be like anywhere from between like $35 to like $40.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't get like cocktails, which we typically don't, we don't really drink anymore. So like, if the bill's like anywhere from like $35 to like $40, like I mean, I'll probably like
for shitty service.
For like if the service was like absolute shit, like I am a $5, and I'll give her like $5 and call it a day. Like
I'll never forget this. I was working at Chili's at the time, and and especially in a small town, you get to know the people around town, and you get to know and remember like who are like the good tippers, who are the average tippers. I heard a team member one time say, another server, she's like, they're standard $5 tippers. And I was like, oh my God, like that's always stuck with me to this day. Like there's going to be those people that no matter what service you give them, great or absolute dog shit, they're going to tip you the standard $5. Like, and that's the most wildest shit ever.
I had this couple at the bar before I moved out here. They were Tampa Bay fans. It'd be every Sunday, like, well, actually, every Sunday they won. or like that the game was on like at a decent time. It'd be like clockwork. They will come in, they will make conversation. They were funny, like they were chill, like we would. And but at the end of the day, every single time we knew that they would just never tip well, and it was just like, fuck, man. Like, there was this another group of like people. I don't know if you knew them. I don't even know because I was a server. It was this group of three older ladies, and like, you're doing something wrong where you're known at a restaurant as that table nobody wants to take.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as those ladies walk into the store, all the servers would look at each other and be like, who's gonna do it?
Oh my God.
Who's taking the bullet? Because it ain't me. I'm not doing it. I served them, I think, once or twice, and after the first time, I was like, I am never serving these people again. I will give up this table. I do not care. I will miss out. I don't care. Like, they were just that bad. Like, it was, and it wasn't just that they were bad tippers. It was just that they were so, like, rude, demanding, and like,
Yeah, you gotta pick one. You can't be rude. You can't be demanding. You can't be like needy, and then above, like after all that, and then not tip. Absolutely not. No, I'm
they
sorry.
just checked all the boxes. So
No.
it's and you're always gonna have your regular.
You gotta be
like,
either rude or cheap. You can't be both.
some people do it all, but that's just the nature of the game. You're gonna have good ones. You're gonna have bad ones. You just gotta.
And I think that's very like that's something that us as servers, you have to kind of like go in very aware and very like with your head right. Like you have to understand that there's going to be those people that are going to be like either having bad days. Not everyone is going to be a good tipper. Not everyone is going to give you like the 22%, like whatever. So you like, I understand that, but sometimes it just feels like all these like standard $5 tippers or stiffers just all come out on the same day, and like you get stiffed. You have to understand that sometimes that's just the name of the game, and you have to be aware. Like you can't go into being a server like I'm gonna make all this. Like yes, like you're gonna make all this money, but do you know what I'm saying, babe? Like do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, you have to take it in with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
It's not.
don't let it affect.
It's not always gonna be good. You always have to remember, like, the bad table. Like, oh, that one bad table you have is not gonna be your first, and it's not gonna be your last. That's kind of the mentality that I always kept. I was like, whenever I had a bad table, I was like, well, you're not gonna be my first bad table, and you're not gonna be my last. So,
Unfortunately.
I just kind of just roll with the punches, but not everyone has that patience and that outlook in life. So, and that's why I always say that this job is definitely not for everyone.
Yeah, it's not.
People go into this job thinking they're going to be quick money, and they have a very rude awakening very quickly.
So, babe, when would it be okay to skip the tip?
I don't think it's ever okay to skip, especially if you're like at a sit down restaurant, because you have to remember this is how these people make their living.
Yeah.
This is how people pay their bills. This is how people put their kids through school, or
yeah, or
do whatever they have to do.
Yeah, or like students pay their tuition and stuff like that.
At the end of the day, I don't think that if you're at a sit down restaurant and you sat down to an entire service, be it good or be it bad, like, I'm obviously not saying you have to tip 25% and 22% every single time, but like, leave something. They provided you a service. Like, give them something.
And
like,
if you are broke, you have no business going out to a sit-down restaurant where you're expected to tip. Because yes, you are like, I get it. It's not like mandatory, but it's there for a reason. If it was like optional, they wouldn't give you the like.
This is the point I'm making. Is like, this is how people like are making their living.
Yeah.
Like, if you like, I understand it's a shitty way to like think about it or like see it as like, yeah, I make my living off of other people, but like,
it's honest work.
Reality.
It's honest work.
The reality.
Because you know what? There are some people that are never going to have to serve a day in their life that they could not do it. Like, it's not easy. Like, being a server is not easy. You have to go in every single day, put your game face on. It doesn't matter what the fuck is going on in your personal life. You have to leave that shit at the door. It takes a toll on your mental health, because when you are providing like excellent customer service, nobody's going to give an absolute flying fuck what you have going on in your personal life. I'm coming out. Same for me. If I'm going out to have dinner with you And Eddie, the last thing I want is to end a week, like if we go out on a Friday night, is to end my week going out to dinner with you and my loved ones to a server who's rude AF. It's something that not everybody has that gift. Like not anybody has the gift to like truly serve other people. So that being said, I kind of want to pivot into like some stories that I found online. And when I asked you skip the tip, you said, obviously it's never okay. When you're in a restaurant setting, absolutely never okay to skip the tip. Whether or not you get shitty service, absolutely never okay to skip the tip. But when we go into like gas stations or like not Starbucks, but like local places, like, places that it's just so random that you never think like, why the fuck am I tipping you? So I went on to Threads. This is Threads. This was from a year ago in May. XOXO Paula on Threads. She says, a year ago, tipping culture in the U.S. has gotten out of control. Was at a store today that provided no services. I went in, picked up seasoning and hot sauce, and went to the counter to pay all under 5 minutes. Cashier ringed me up to tell me to, quote unquote, make a selection on the pin pad for tip amounts, starting at 20%, and gives me a dirty look when I select no tip. Excuse me, what? No service was provided. Since when do we tip someone for ringing us up at the register buying goods? This is truly, I think this is like the part of tipping culture that has gotten out of hand. And it makes people who are in the service industry sound crazy because we're bitching about not getting tipped. Like,
it's not the same.
It's not the same.
I haven't seen that, but yeah, like I would definitely agree. It's like there's no, like, people need to redefine the word like being provided a service. Like in that instance, it's like, you didn't shop for me, you didn't do anything for me. Like I went in, I grabbed my own stuff, and I'm cashing out. And like you're literally like, you're telling me you want a tip for scanning a fucking barcode and telling me how much I gotta pay?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Even when I'm at Starbucks, I understand they're making me my handcrafted coffee. They're not just pouring my coffee out from an urn. Like it's a handcraft. It's a service you're paying for. I do my best to tip almost every time any chance that I can. I do my best to tip at Starbucks.
I don't drink coffee, but if I was a coffee drinker, I would probably still tip very little because I'm like,
yeah, $1, $2, and then you go into like restaurants like those. I feel like all those places, they pull their tips. So
because they're paid hourly. Yeah, at Starbucks, they're being paid hourly.
So do you remember when we were rewatching Vanderpump Rules, and in the first season, Sheena was saying that, or like all the servers on the show, like on the episode, were saying that they were talking about how if they were gonna switch up like their tip situation, because at that time when they were filming the first season and they were working, they were pulling their tips. And at SUR, that's something that they were doing. But at Villa Blanca, where Sheena came from, if I remember correctly, she said that they didn't do that there. Everybody goes in, they work for their money, and they go home. Restaurants, I feel like, do sometimes pull tips. And if any of our listeners are working in a restaurant where they pull tips, let us know, like, if that's still a thing, or if you've ever worked at a restaurant that pulled tips, because I personally would not like that. Because if I'm going to work above and if I'm going to go above and beyond, and I'm going to fucking carry my team, absolutely not. Because we've all had those team members that are just absolutely garbage at their job, and we're all kind of wondering, like, how the hell did you even make it this far, let alone like go through like your training? But it's like, why am I going to be busting my ass, to break even with everybody when you didn't do jack shit?
I mean, the example I was saying is like in Starbucks, like they're hourly employees, which is why I wouldn't tip.
Yeah.
But like for that, or going for what you're talking about, I 100% would not want to work at a place where like my tip is like, or I'm making the same as someone who doesn't work as hard as me.
Yeah. Yeah. Could never. But yeah. Another thing I saw on Threads, and this is from Calvin Romance on Threads. Tipping culture in LA, and this was this year in February. Tipping culture in LA is wild. I just tipped 20% for someone to hand me a muffin. No service, no smile, just pure muffin transfer. At this point, I'm not tipping for service. I'm tipping to avoid the shame of being that guy. And that's what I was telling you. That's how I feel. Like, I feel like I'm pressured, especially because I come from the service industry. And I know what he's saying when he's referring to like being avoiding, like to avoid being that guy. Like, it's true. Like, you don't want to be that person. Because I know like the thoughts I've had about people and the judgments I make on people when I've been in that position where I'm asking for a tip and they leave me nothing. And it's like, oh, so it's true. Like, I feel a lot of the times people are pressured in these positions to tip because they don't want to be known as that guy.
I agree. And not disagree, but like, I agree because I mean, but it's also like this generation's fault. I hate to sound like an old man by saying this generation, but I feel like I genuinely feel like it's true. Like, these newer generations of like employees feel like they're entitled to everything. And it's like I don't understand where in the thought process it clicks or makes sense to be like, yeah, I deserve to be tipped for doing the absolute bare minimum. Like, for that example you just used, like, if you literally, it's like if you walk into Starbucks and you say, hey, let me get that cold sandwich or like whatever breakfast crap they give, like, let me get that. Okay, here you go. They ring you up. Would you like a tip? I'm like, you just grabbed the sandwich from a window and gave it to me.
Yeah.
In what world does that make, like, think, in what world does that equal, like, yeah, you deserve a tip. Like, no, like, it's like, at that point, like,
if I was in that position, I'd almost feel embarrassed to ask for a tip.
Exactly.
Because at that
like,
point, I'm already getting paid my minimum wage. I'm already getting paid to scan something, ring you up, and check you out. Why would I even bother asking for a tip? Much less, like, why would I be in a position to be forced? But because I come from the service industry, and I don't know if you feel the same way, do you feel that sense of guilt when you're like...
I don't go fuck. No. If I have the mental capacity to be like...
to turn that off.
To understand, like, what jobs deserve a tip and what jobs do not deserve a tip. And that, if I'm ever, like... And this, I mean, I don't go out a lot, but I was like, I feel like if I would have been in that situation and she gave me a dirty look, I'll be known as that guy all day. I will give you a dirty look back. I'll be like, fuck you want? You want a tip? For what?
Yeah.
What the fuck you do?
Now, is it ever okay to go after a guest, like follow them into the parking lot, or to ever question them from a serving perspective? Like, when you're a server, would you ever be like, okay, did I do something? Like, would you ever question a guest why they didn't tip you?
I mean, I always question what they tip me.
To their face.
No, not to their face, but like, obviously, like, to myself. But it's like,
yeah.
I wouldn't have, I don't think, because I'm thinking as I'm answering this, like, even if they were to like insult me or like be rude to me, I don't think I would ever stoop so low as to like going after a guest. Because like, at the end of the day, like, I'm not gonna gain anything, and it's like, they're not gonna gain anything either. Like,
yeah,
it's like, I personally would never. I mean, I'll trust me. Like, hey, this is just a public service announcement to anyone who doesn't tip or like is rude to like people in the service industry. The amount of shit being talked about you and the judgment being put upon you is astronomical. Just, you know, as an added. It's an added weight,
as a little sprinkle, as a little seasoning
the
to
sprinkle
this.
to the cake. You are being judged.
Roasted.
You are being judged, and like, I still talk shit about guests to this day, and I have not worked at the restaurant I started with well over 2 years, 2 or 3 years, and I still have stories and shit to talk about some guests that I've had.
So going back to like tipping culture, I am watching this video just now. This is on Twitter, on X, and the account is Human No Context. They have 5.7 million followers, and they uploaded a video of a girl who is recording herself, and she looks like she's like at an airport, like convenience store, at a convenience store, it doesn't matter where. And she says, like, is this tipping culture this bad in any other place, or is it just America? And for context on this video, this girl is literally grabbing a water bottle from their like cooler, She grabs it, goes to scan at the self-checkout, goes to put in like that she's paying with a card, and then is prompted with a screen of add a tip. Like,
Would you like the tip?
yeah. She goes to pay, the name for your order. Would you like to leave a tip? What? 15, 18, and 20%. I'm so sure. Like, literally, you're doing the entire, like, that is what blows my mind and upsets me to no end. Because when we bitch as servers, people in the food service industry, and like people who work and slave and work for the, like, live off of tips, to then be slapped in the face by these people that just expect a tip, like you say, it's such a slap in the face for us. We get in the mix and thrown in the mix of like, well, you chose that life, or like, you don't, like, it's, I think it's such a slap in the face for people that truly work off of their tips or live off of their tips, to then be like grouped in with these people that work hourly jobs and get like compensated for their work. And then just to want to throw in like that suggestion of, or that give
that slap in the face of like, you chose this life, or like, this is the path you chose in life. And it's like, not everyone, like, a lot of jobs like require experience. Very few jobs are going to hire people, especially office jobs. Like, the only office job you're going to get without any experience is like a receptionist. And even at then, they still expect some sort of like competence of being a receptionist is not like as easy or cut out as you think it is. Like, people think at the beginning, oh, I just answer calls and do this and that. Like, no, as a receptionist, you still do a lot of stuff. So like, even to get such a simple job like that, it's like, hey, like, you still have experience. And even then, what people don't get, the people who get these jobs or take these jobs are people that this is what works best for them. Because at the end of the day, there's a reason why these people are in this job. Like, I don't think, maybe people do, but I know a lot of people who work in this service industry don't wake up and they're like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. A lot of these people are doing this because it's either A, convenient for the schedule, B, is the only thing they like can afford to do at the moment, or C, is just the only thing available around. Because again, people think, oh, there's so many jobs to go around, but how many of you have applied to multiple jobs and only hear back from one?
Yeah.
If any. So it's like, a lot of people, like, for people who say that, like, one, have no right to do that, because one, you're not in my shoes. Like, you're not the one like that's doing the service. So like, for people who genuinely like do that, like, that sit there and they're like, you chose this life, like, why should I like have to like provide for you? And I'm like, then why are you out?
Yeah, they have to remember that a lot of the times they're speaking to kids who are in college, putting themselves through college, or like trying to figure out their lives. They're young adults. Like, I'm not judging you while you're sitting in a cubicle answering phone calls or sending faxes. Like, you chose that life, asshole.
Exactly. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, if that's the mentality you're gonna have, is like, why do I have to tip you? I'm like, okay, then why the hell are you out to eat? Why do I need to give you, like,
Yeah.
like, there's a flip to every coin. There's another side to every coin. So it's like, if you are gonna choose to go out and not tip, then I recommend that you strap yourselves in, because you're gonna start getting a lot of shitty service everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And then, and if that's the price you're willing to pay, fine. Because at the end of the day, what I said earlier, what people don't realize, you're not going to be a server's first nor last table. There's going to be another person in this table 5 minutes after you leave.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you don't tip, somebody else will.
Yeah.
And if that's how you want to live your life, just, I'm telling you now, be prepared to be known as that guy that doesn't tip, and be prepared to be given mediocre service. Because I will own up to this right now. Me being a server and the years that I serve, as soon as I got the vibe from a table that I know they're not going to tip me,
they're nickeling and diming you for everything.
Yes.
How much does this cost? And does it cost for
not
refills?
even that. Like, I don't judge them for that, but like, I can just tell, like, by like, you as a server, if you're a good server, you can tell by your simply by your body language, your attitude, the way you speak to us. Like, we can tell what kind of person you are.
Not all the time, because sometimes those tables, there are every now and then those tables that you think are going to be like, even some, like every now and then, how many times have we gone out when we were younger, and people didn't know that we were servers and they're kind of like giving us shitty service only to find out that we're in the industry and then we slap them with like a good 22% tip, or more.
I've never tipped someone for bad service. Like a good tip. I don't, okay, unless I don't understand what you said.
No, like not that you're getting bad service, but it's happened to me like when I was younger and people, even my sister, she's in the food service industry too. She's a server. And she's been a server for a while, or like in the industry for a while. So when she goes out with her friends, she tells me like, yeah, like a lot of the times, like people don't realize that, I'm in this industry too. And they see like a table full of kids, not realizing that, I know the struggle and I'm going to tip you good. And so not that they give you shitty service, but they don't, I guess, try to give you great service.
Yeah, that's the point I'm saying. Like, it's like you can look at a table or like have interaction with someone, and like, I mean, at least for me, like I'll still give you like a good service, but like I guarantee you that like the difference in service from like a table who I see is like being friendly, being engaging, like they're like being just decent people, like they're just not being rude for no reason at all. Like the difference in service that you'll receive is going to be like astronomical. Like, and I'll admit to doing that. Like, I've had plenty of tables where like I can just tell like you're just not, like, you're not having a good day, you're not gonna tip me well. Like, I'm just like, I go from trying to go above and beyond to give you good service to just like, I'm gonna do the bare minimum. Like, I'm gonna, if your cup's empty, I'll give you a refill. Like, I'm not gonna go out of my way to ask you if you want any stuff. I'm just like, my mentality is like, I need to get you out of here as soon as possible so I can get another table in this seat.
And flip you. Yeah.
And like,
all right. So you ready to wrap this up, babe? Can you think of anything else that we need to talk about, or that you've wanted, like any stories, any particular stories?
This is that one. I've seen some before where it's like it's just stuff that I've seen on the internet where it's like one like receipt where a lady drew like a line through the tip, and on the total she said, maybe you should think twice before calling other women's husbands like honey or like sweetie. And I was like,
bitch,
and I was like,
go home and cook for your
like
man.
That
then
is like, bro, like
that shit's so petty.
If you're
so
that
annoying,
insecure
dude,
in your relationship that you have to treat people like that, then yeah, just stay home.
Not only that, like especially in the food service industry, there's people especially in bigger cities like Orlando, LA, that it's just a melting pot of people. You're going to get people from the South. You're going to get people from different places that just have manners, They could, like, they're not saying it in any disrespectful way, but like, that's just their culture. It's not, I mean, not that it's anything bad. It's obviously they're not there to like.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if they're not out to steal your man or steal your girl, like if it's a guy, like, and that's that's why I said, like, if you're that insecure in your relationship that you think anyone.
Next time, take your $40, your $50, go buy groceries and cook for your boo, for your honey.
Because it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, if you think that everyone is out to get like your significant other, then yeah, exactly that. Just stay home.
Now, it's so annoying. Now, as long as it's not inappropriate, then I'm like,
obviously, yeah.
Yeah, I get that, but a lot of the time, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be like innocent.
Not even innocent. It's just being courteous.
Yeah,
it's just having like common courtesy to like not just address someone, because there's people who don't like being addressed as like as sir or ma'am or
oh my god,
y'all.
Well, y'all, I say y'all like 11 times out of 10, but whatever. There's this one place in Miami in South Beach. It's called Bacon Bitch. And I went there for the first time with, both times I've gone there with Esther, my friend. She took me there, and did I tell her about it? I think Cheeky told me about it. Regardless of the fact, we went there. It's this place called Bacon Bitch on South Beach in Miami, and all of the servers there call you bitch. Guy, girl, boyfriend, husband, wife, everyone there, kids, well, I don't know about kids, but everyone there is getting called bitch. And so their menu, it's so I love it. It's so funny. So the main entrees, it's like a brunch breakfast place. The main dishes are going to be called your main bitches. Your side stuff, like your sides are all called side bitches. It is like gold, like food service industry, like customer service gold. You go around getting to call people bitches. It's amazing. And so like me and my friends, we all got t-shirts there that day. And I came home with a Miami bitch tank top. That's the one I'm wearing in that one photo. And they imagine working for a place kind of like Dick's, a restaurant Dick's, where you can literally go around and just being a complete jerk to people.
I'd love to work there.
I'd love to work there too. It's so funny. Like I'd love to work at a place like Bacon Bitch. Go around calling people bitches, and then like their menu and all of their stuff, like their drinks, their stuff, it's catered to the word bitch. So it's kind of funny. I'll probably like post some pictures of it. Yeah. So if you ever find yourself in Miami or South Beach, definitely hit that place up. They've got good food. They've got good drinks. 10 out of 10 recommend, especially for the experience. You're not going to ever find any place like that, like just anywhere. So if anything, go for the experience. It's definitely a good one. So fun story before we wrap up. My friend on TikTok, funny story. He posted this video, I think recently, probably like within this last 2 weeks. He's a teacher. He posted a video and he's always doing funny TikToks like in his classroom and stuff like that. Funny. He posted a video. His name is Adrian. So definitely go out and follow him on TikTok if you want a good laugh. Such a great human being. I love him. He posted a video of him at his desk pretending like to be like the teacher, and then him also pretending to be he's playing both parts, right? So he's pretending to be the principal walking by his classroom, like thanking him for such an amazing job. And then fast forward, you see him sitting at his desk and he's like thanking the principal, like, yes, thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. Grabs his iPad like from his desk or his computer, turns it and faces it to the principal, and it's the tip screen. So the principal is basically thanking him for such a great job that he's doing and like what a great teacher that he is. And then he's like, oh yeah, like
Thank you.
yeah, thanks, whatever. Then grabs his iPad computer, turns it around, faces it to the principal with the tip screen on it, and then gives him that side eye, like, yeah, I'm not looking, but I'm looking, and like, are you gonna tip or not? It was like, I had to repost it. It was hilarious.
Oh my God, that's another awkward thing. Like when people just like when they sign the check as you're cleaning the table, you're like, oh, I don't want to see why you're tipping, bro. Like, let me clean that.
Not only that, like as a server, I've been in the position, I will never hover over somebody, even when they beg me, like, no, stay right here. I'm gonna sign it real quick. I'm just kind of like, fuck, dude. Like, is another table of mine calling me? Does anybody else need drinks?
Also, please don't do this thing to your server where you like pretend to fight for who's gonna pay who's gonna pay the bill. That's just annoying. Like just give me a card. I need you out. don't
Whoever can give me the card first, I don't care.
Or make them choose. Like nah, just no.
Yeah, I've been in that position too, where they're like, no, don't let her pay, don't let him pay, don't let her pay, and I'm like,
it's cute. It's me personally, I didn't like it. I just felt like it was awkward. Like I'm just sitting there like.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're gonna be the villain. You're gonna be the villain in someone's eyes.
But anywho, sign us off. I hope you have a great weekend. If you work today, I hope you have a great shift, easygoing, and most important, that you make a shit ton of money, and that you have a great day.
Weekend. Oh, one thing I didn't say, babe. So we talked about this last week. We talked a little bit about it when we were talking about team member appreciation. So team member appreciation, our episode is obviously coming out on Friday, but team member appreciation was actually yesterday, Thursday, on March 6th. So if you work for a company that appreciates you guys, I hope that they like went all out for you. I know your job, man, is going to go all out, but if they didn't, just know that we appreciate you guys for all that you do, whatever industry that you're in, doesn't matter, especially if you're in customer service and you're talking to people day in and day out, all day long. trust me, we've been in that position. We feel you. We appreciate you. One thing I actually learned from a very good friend of mine, Gabby, I picked this up from her. Every time we would even through texting, because we were both on the road together as trainers. That's how I met her. And then we both became managers. And then we were managing in the same city at one point. We became roommates. Every time I would text her before we moved, before we were roommates, she would always, especially if it had to do with work, she always would end the text saying, "Thanks so much. I appreciate you." And it's oh my gosh, something so little like that goes a long way. And so because of her, I started taking that in, and I now say that any chance I can, whether it's to my team, whether it's to you, babe, people that, people that are in the industry or people that you meet, wherever, a simple "I appreciate you" truly does go a long way. So I hope that you guys have such a great week. I hope that your jobs all appreciated you and threw you guys a big fiesta. But regardless of the fact, if they didn't, just know that we do. And like Manny said, I hope you guys make a shit ton of money. And yeah. Still waiting on your backstage bites, guys. Send them our way. We can't wait to see them. If you can't email us, or if you don't have our email, just go ahead and send us a DM on Instagram. And yeah.
That does it for another shift. You survived. You made it through.
Don't forget to clock out. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend. Do all the podcast things: share, comment, subscribe. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Leave some comments on Spotify and on YouTube. And yeah.
See you next week, foodies.